Hello, I'm Linda Spradley Dunn, the CEO and founder of Odyssey Media, and I'm here with Beatrice Sibblies, one of the hottest real estate developers in Harlem. I am so proud to present this series sponsored by Walmart. Walmart salutes the women in our community who hire first-time job seekers who employ our folks in our neighborhood. Welcome, Beatrice.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So Beatrice, you're everywhere. You're building, you're developing. What is it that your company does?
So I'm a real estate developer. I like to say I'm a self-taught real estate developer. I used to be a banker. And when 9/11 happened, I had a moment of soul searching.
Wow.
And I said, look, if this day were to be my last, what would I want to spend every day doing? And, you know, one of the things that Odyssey celebrates is following your passion.
Right.
And I had a unique opportunity where a wise woman, when I went to her for advice, asked me, would you consider doing real estate? Because there are a lot of projects in rebuilding our communities, but the people working on our communities and building in our communities often are not from our communities.
Wow, that is really an important point that you're making, because we want to see our inner cities, our communities come back. However, most of the time, the contracts are not awarded to people in the communities. So to see you there and see you building and developing is not just a great optic for kids in our community and people, but it brings dollars. How many people do you employ?
So I want to put it in the context of the value chain of the dollar, right? So one of the things that we always talk about in economic development, I studied economic development at Yale, is how many times does the dollar circulate in your community?
Okay, so now you're hitting one of these hot button issues
Correct.
in our community. How many times do we thread our own money?
Correct. So when I build a real estate project, say like I want to build a 100-unit building, it'll cost me $50 million to build a 100-unit building.
Okay, so you're way over my head now. You know, I make a couple million, I'm all happy and skipping down the street. $50 million project?
$50 million project. So at the minimum, the project brings in $50 million, right? And so when you pay the workers, then the workers go and pay their rent, they pay the babysitter, they pay the school fees, they buy uniforms, they buy groceries, right? So that $50 million creates jobs and opportunities coming from those jobs.
Wow.
But then 100 families move into the building, right? And let's say that each family coming into the building brings into that community $10,000 a year. Then that building, 100 times 10,000, is bringing in $1 million of investment into the community every single year.
I'm telling you, you need to bottle this and take it on the road, because so many folk are saying it's not just about gentrification.
Correct.
It is about using our dollars in our community. And with you hiring people from the community, that increases the value of that building even more.
Correct.
Do you hire first-time job seekers, or are you just looking for professionals when you do your development?
When I do my development, most of the times you have to have experience for certain parts of the project, right? If you're going to be designing a building and designing an elevator system and designing the roof, you might need to have done that before,
right?
Or we're going to have some very unhappy residents.
Right.
But there are opportunities in the project for people who are first-timers. A lot of those opportunities come in construction, but a lot of those opportunities come in services, right? Because especially when the building is up and running, someone has to service the building. But what is even more important for bringing in first-time people is, and I do that through internships, real estate is a closed club.
Wow.
Right?
We knew that, but to hear you say that being in the business is really important.
Right, so I actually did go to school for real estate. I have an MBA from Wharton, and I did most of the real estate master's program at NYU. But real estate is a craft. There is nothing you can learn in a book about how to build a building.
Okay, so hold that right there. So there's an argument that people are making that, listen, in order to get more first-time job seekers in construction and in development, you gotta be on the job. And this is one where even with a junior college degree or a high school degree, if you learn the craft, you're hireable. Is that what you're saying?
You have to learn the craft.
Got you.
And so I always take the chance to bring someone along, and it's usually the person who bothers me the most.
Why?
So
So the squeaky wheel gets
so there's
the oil.
usually some squeaky wheel that sees me walking by, grabs my shirt, and doesn't let go. And one of the things that, and I always say this especially to young people who want to get into real estate. You know, people look at real estate, and it might surprise you what I'm about to say. They say, oh, I want to build communities. And I say, real estate development is very interesting. You think that you're building communities, but when you're a real estate developer, the biggest job that you do is managing risk.
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say to me that real estate is managing risk.
Real
That
estate
is
is
such a
managing
different
risk.
approach, and one that is well needed. You're just truth serum here today as we are discussing. What can we do as a community, as corporate America, as small business owners? What can we do to help our young folk who want to work for your companies, who want to get into real estate, who need a job with very little experience? What advice can you give to the community and to those young people?
So one of the things that I always say to my young people is try to understand the big business. Even if you're just starting in the business, try to understand the game.
The whole game.
The whole game.
Got you.
And sometimes the whole game might have a lot of fancy words around it, but the game is relatively simple.
Got you.
When I do a real estate deal, I can do that. If I can't do the deal on the back of the napkin, in the back of my head, then it's not a deal to do. So when you're coming upon a business, most entrepreneurs can look at a project, look at a deal, and figure it out on the back of the envelope. So try and ask the questions to figure out what the tricks of that business is. I'm a self-taught developer. I was a banker. I built my first building with 80 units, having never done a formal real estate development project before, other than building my own townhouse. So I literally just went around and asked
Okay, but
questions.
you're rolling out words like, I just built my own townhouse. Come on. You know, most people haven't just built their own townhouse. But one of the things I think you're saying that I often get asked by corporations, they say, what can we do? It sounds like a lot of first-time job seekers need training courses, not just in the craft, but how to show up. Critical thinking, ask
Correct.
the boss,
Correct.
understand the bigger vision. Because I think a lot of our training programs now are really aimed at go learn this one thing.
Correct.
As opposed to go think about the process. And I'd like to see corporations and communities offer more training in critical thinking.
Right. And so, I did get a background in liberal arts education, but that's just a fancy word. You know, there have been generations of black women who have sat at their grandmother's knee and asked, Grandma, why do your sweet potato pie taste better than everybody else's? Right? And so it's really taking the time to be still, finding someone who is patient, and really getting them to invest in you.
Got you.
To take the time to teach you what they know.
Are there specific tax credits? Are there incentives by the government and the cities for you to be in our community hiring folk?
Well, it's very interesting because one of the benefits of being a developer in Harlem is that there are significant tax credits. Now, what I do a little bit differently in my business platform is most African Americans in real estate participate in producing affordable housing. And affordable housing is critical, but communities to be sustainable also need jobs.
Very
and
good.
they need economic activity. So my focus in my real estate development practice is on community development, commercial development. And currently I'm in the process of developing a boutique hotel and a extended stay hotel in Harlem, because Harlem is the #3 destination for tourism in New York City.
Wow, who knew that?
There are more tourists visiting New York City than Disney World. 50+ million people visit New York City every year, and there are dollars associated with that. But people come to Harlem, they come on the tour bus, they go to church, they have some fried chicken, and they leave. Harlem got its first new hotel in 40 years within the last 5 years.
Wow.
There's one more in construction, and I hope to bring 2, maybe more.
Well, congratulations on that, because I did hear that you were awarded these contracts. You are part of the renaissance of Harlem coming back. And I cannot tell you that we couldn't be proud of you, both as Odyssey women, as women in the metro area, but for your commitment to hiring people from our neighborhood and threading those dollars back. Thank you, Beatrice.
Thank you so much for having us.
I just want to tell you that Walmart salutes women like you, and I'm so glad that you're giving back. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Pleasure.